Welcome to the Blogging and SEO show. I'm Michaela, a stay-at-home mom of 3 who just happens to be in love with everything related to SEO, blogging, marketing, coffee, and shedding light into the many mystifying corners of search engine optimization and what that means for us service providers, small business owners, and even bloggers. We're ditching the do-it-all narrative surrounding SEO and blogging and just sitting down and crafting strategies that are sustainable but still get us those first-page, long-lasting results. Now let's get cozy, grab your fave sweater and a cup of tea or coffee, and let's talk everything blogging and SEO. Hello, and welcome back to the Blogging and SEO show. So today I actually have a guest, and of course these are pre-recorded because I always take my podcast editor's advice and batch some episodes. I should be better, but it is what it is. I'm just rolling with it. Anyway, so this is Nicole from Groovy Social. I have kind of stalked on Instagram for a while, and I was like, this would be a great interview to bring on, especially because I feel like there's definitely some overlap in how I always say, like, be personable, like, bring some personality into your blog post. And I feel like that vibe very much carries into what she teaches on Instagram. But all right, just introduce yourself, please.
Hello. I'm Nicole from Groovy Social, a Instagram strategist for personal brands in this personal brand boom. Online business owners looking to be the face and show up as the authentic leaders of their brands.
Awesome. I love it. That's kind of like, I feel like that's definitely what I have too, is mostly personal brands. I have a few people who are like, I don't know if I really want to show up yet. Like, I mean, I had the same thought process last year. I was like, I don't really want to show my face. I don't even think I had my name on my Instagram for the longest. I was like, I'm just comma mama, SEO strategist and blog writer. That I don't
not even in the bio.
No, I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, and then when I started having conversations with people, it's like, oh yeah, my name's Michaela. I'm like, yeah, we didn't know that. So now I introduce myself once a month, and I'm like, all right, now my name is there. I'm Michaela, more so than the comma mama co. But yeah. So what kind of made you choose Instagram strategy of all things?
Honestly, I started my business as a virtual assistant, not knowing anything about marketing. Like, this was late 2021 when the boom was kind of halfway started, and I kind of got in on it, and everyone just had the really good sense to not come to me for administrative assistance. So they chose my social media support packages. And then within, a month of that, I just got rid of the admin tasks and just completely offered social to everyone.
You're like, nobody's paying attention to these anyway. Let's just
nobody
ditch them.
knows. I'll never not remember me sitting on the couch, like in my parents' home, just launched the business, and spending approximately 7 hours on a post called "What is Task Management?" And I was like,
no, thank you.
First of all, no wonder it's taking me forever because I know nothing about this. Like, number 2, boring. So boring. I'm bored of it just creating it. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning of the end of that path for me.
Well, I had a similar experience, except for mine was related to Instagram. I was doing blogging and Pinterest. And I had some agency work that was like blogging and SEO. And I was like, all right, I really like this. I like the technical side and the fact that, I still get to write and do all this cool, fun stuff. And I had someone approach me. I think I was still taking jobs on Upwork at that point. And they're like, hey, you want to do social media engagement and like check my stuff? And I was like, yeah, why not? Sure. Like, I don't have a lot of clients. I literally had just launched my website. So I was like, all right. And I was miserable. I was like, I have to do this every day. We were like, she was like, I want you to do it 15 minutes in the morning, around lunch, and then in the evening. And then if you could DM people and like do this. And I was like, no, thank you. I would rather just not. So I was quickly out of that space as well.
Yeah. The engagement element. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's such an everyday, it is an everyday task is engagement. It's kind of because I eventually quickly transitioned to social media management. And this year is kind of the year that I've stepped away from that almost fully. Like I still kind of, I still have like a few of my day one clients who are, I love working with and all of that kind of stuff. But engagement specifically was kind of the single reason, one of them, that I was like, I cannot do social media management anymore because it just went against one of my corest of values when I was in my client's account DMing somebody and went over to my like Groovy social account and saw a familiar name and was like, I was just talking to this person with my client's account. Oh my gosh, I am pretending to be someone else. And then I am also talking to the same person as myself. And it cringed me out beyond belief. I was like, I will never, ever, ever be able to look at this the same way again. I don't like this at all. So I was like, yeah. So that was like kind of the big moment for me where I was like, I can't do this in this way anymore.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I coexist in the same space as an agency I write for, and we've actually shared that we work with each other like often, but it's just weird for me sometimes to see like, okay, I'm writing this content for them, but we're also in the same space outside of here, and I know that like they're on my email list or something like that. I'm like, I feel that type of contact just feels weird, and then I couldn't even imagine trying to essentially put on somebody else's shoes and be like, yep, this is me over here, and then change your shoes and be like, oh, I'm over here too.
Yeah,
but you don't know that. But
yeah, I feel like it feels fraudulent a little bit. I don't know. I know there's many engagement strategists and people who are so good at what they do. But for me, it was just like, I don't think I can do this.
I feel like that kind of goes into the next thing. Like, so you said that you don't do traditional social media management and you work mainly with personal brands. So what does that kind of look like? Why did you ditch that?
Yeah, it was because a lot of times when you're in this online bubble, you tend to work with other people in the space. And kind of coming around when I started was the time that reels were really catching on, and everyone was like, oh yeah, show your personality on reels. And authenticity became this like crazy buzzword all during that time. And I was just like, yeah, okay, this is kind of my thing. I'm going to run with this. But in juggling, in managing different accounts and creating content for them and doing all these kinds of things, I think that my strength was in bringing a lot of people's personalities and perspectives and all of that kind of thing to life and allowing that to shine through in content, because I can see, the good parts that they're kind of maybe feeling a little bit of self-doubt or imposter syndrome around. The overthinking element for a personal brand kind of gets taken away when you are posting for them and co-creating with them. But in the same breath, there is still so much that is required of the personal brand behind the content. So I think that when you're completely offloading social media, taking it off your plate, eventually over time, it does create this disconnect between self, between community. The ideas that where you were once flush with are no more because that creative muscle isn't necessarily being flexed in the same way. And when you have somebody else engaging for you and you don't technically have to do it, you don't. And so there's just not that supplementary posting on stories and that support the feed content, because you don't technically have to show up there and you don't have to engage with your community and you don't have to really generate all the ideas because they're kind of done for you, even though your insight is of course taken into account. But I think over time, it just gets more and more diluted and more separated from and disconnected from yourself and from your community, which is ultimately what I noticed as the personal brand boom continues to boom. And yeah, kind of why I just, monetary, like financially wise, pricing my packages, it takes so much more work from the social media manager's standpoint to manage a personal brand's account, because there's a lot more copy to be written. There's a lot more stuff to do. but it also takes so much more work from the personal brand because they're the face, they're filming, they're doing all these things. So it's like you want to offload social media, but you just can't when you're a personal brand. So it didn't feel right that way to be charging, X amount of dollars for something that still is requiring so much work from the personal brand. It's just really, really different. And at the end of the day, the most potent, impactful, meaningful content comes directly from the source. I'll never have your brain. I can prompt you with, different personal experiences and stories to infuse into your content. But like, I didn't fall off a bike when I was 6, and I can't relate that to like what it taught you about marketing and like all of these kinds of things. So so all of this kind of stuff has led to my pivot away from that, just because I truly, truly wholeheartedly believe that social media management in what it once was with creating full service content, engaging, all of that stuff is just not going to be the most impactful way to approach social media and outsource it as a personal brand in this year, in the times going forward. For a personal brand of a small business in the online space. I'm not talking about like CEOs of major companies. I'm like talking about you and me, like, so yeah.
Do you feel like there's like too far of adding personality in your socials? I think I saw a video the other day where you were like, I don't need to cry on Instagram. You don't need the tears.
Personality and like being yourself and authenticity and vulnerability, like there's all kind of like, they all kind of overlap. I feel like, because it is so vulnerable to be your full self online. But, a lot of people I personally have never been in the midst of a weekly mental breakdown and thought I should record this. Like, that is my lowest of the low moment. And I really, truly, and I also think it's like really personal. And that's just, that's a boundary that I have. And I would not, I've struggled with mental health a great deal. And so for me, like, that's me sorting through my shit in my own time. And I would love to reflect on that and share how I moved through it, how I'm showing up despite it, and how I'm, what are my takeaways? What permission slips can I offer that I gave myself to show up rather than cry on camera? But I also think that when I've seen brands, showing that side of themselves, crying on camera in that way to show like there's some tough shit going on behind the scenes, and it's not used in that kind of like with the intent of like something by my thing afterwards, which you can tell when that is the thing, but you can also tell when it's genuine too. And so I think that is, if you're wanting to do that, absolutely go for it. But it's not me. And I think that that's part of being yourself online, is like establishing what your boundaries are and like where your cringe level is, what's not aligned value wise for you when you're showing up in this way. Like, when I think about taking it too far in content, the people that I think probably worry about it the most are people like me who have a tendency to put their foot in their mouth. And somebody said I was watching some show and they were like, her mouth wrote a check that her ass could cash. And I was like, guilty as charged. Like, so I like, for example, I was literally just before this interview thinking, oh, I learned the true meaning of what inconsistency was, because I got one of those like laser hair removal at home things. But if you don't use them consistently, the red light that's in them actually stimulates hair growth versus takes them away. So I've learned the hard way. But what inconsistency can do for you. And like, I'm like, is this too much to share? Because me like crossing lines like that in a humorous way is something that I am always cautious about. But I think that's because that stems from me wanting to be perceived as the authority and take me seriously, and a skewed view of what professionalism actually means, which is such a great thing that this online space has done, which is completely dismantled what professionalism can look like. And so I think that is something really, really cool. So for me, that's like personality wise, I wonder, I sometimes stress about, am I taking this too far? Jara Bean on Instagram is like, and TikTok as well, is such a great example of like armpit farting on
Yeah,
camera.
I follow her as well. I love it. It makes me smile.
I know. I'm like, dang, I need to like let go of whatever my thing is. I know that there are things that I'm like, TMI, don't. But we're also like in a time where oversharing and all of this kind of stuff is really almost appreciated in certain degrees. But I think where we really need to be cautious, where we do take it too far, is when we're letting either a vulnerable moment, a sad moment seep through, and the wound hasn't healed enough, and we're maybe trauma dumping a bit on our audience and leaving your audience kind of feeling guarded, feeling like drained, energy drained after reading what you might have wrote or listening to what you said. And you on the other side of the screen leaving with this vulnerability hangover of like, oh my God, what did I just say? And then on the other side of that, more of a ranty, angry kind of way, I think inviting some pause and reflection when something that's really triggered you in an angry way, or something's really triggered you in a sad, menti B, we're all having them behind the screen. Like, I think those are times when you can invite more reflection before you share, because something happens when you are able to show up and reveal what's been going on behind the screen, because somebody can absolutely relate. But something even cooler happens when you share the takeaways that helped you move through that experience. How you did handle a client burning you with professionalism versus like slander, like slamming them online, because we've seen it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's just like, I think when you are worried about taking it too far, it's never going to be like that fun, silly thing that you're so self-conscious about. It's always going to be the thing that is actually going to be draining your energy from sharing it and draining the people who are consuming that tidbit of information that you're sharing. So I think always giving more energy than you're taking. What was your takeaway? How did you handle the situation? What permission slip did you give yourself that you can offer to another? And that not only shows how real you are and like, okay, relatable thing, I'm going through the same thing too, but it enhances your authority and your leadership, because you're like, okay, I'm actually sharing how I'm moving through this situation, whereas most people just stop at the what, and you're showing that kind of the how, and that kind of is what builds your credibility and really breeds that trust and loyalty among people. So yeah, that's where I would be cautious. But the silly stuff is usually we're overthinking ourselves a bit too much into sharing the goofy side of ourselves that for some reason we don't think is worthy of being seen.
Oh yeah, definitely. I recently took Sarah from Between the Lines Copy. I love her stuff. I'm in her 30-day challenge going on right now. And I've always, I don't know why, but I've been against this long newsletter trend that, well, she finds really good success with it. And I enjoy reading yours, and I think they're pretty long.
Yeah.
At least in comparison to some of the ones that I've read.
Yeah.
But, I was a ghost for all of October, and I really went into my email newsletter. And so recently I was like, all right, well, now I don't have the ghost to kind of carry me. Like, I don't have this Halloween theme to keep me through. And what do I do? I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's be personable. Let's share. So, I made my last email and it was like about chicken cupcakes that I made when I was a child, which, by the way, 10 out of 10 mom, she humored us through this whole thing where me and my sister started a business, a bakery, and we called it Templeton's. Well, she called it Templeton's, and we kind of learned that she was not very motivated to have a little business. She really liked baking, but the business side of things, she was like, okay, I'm kind of done with this now.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I'm going to go to school and sell cupcakes and pies for 50 cents or whatever. And which I got in trouble for. Apparently you can't do that. Especially,
really?
Yeah, I had to go sit with the principal because he was like, you can't sell food at school. And I was like, but it's just, can I give it out? And they just happened to give me a quarter.
You needed a permit? Like,
I don't know. He was like, you can't give food to people. And I was like, well, I guess it could be a health hazard, but like, I'm also
they're not
like 13. We're in like seventh grade. I don't know.
It seems like a very harsh punishment to like sit in this principal office all day. Like, oh yeah, I was like, hey, Michaela, like that's actually not cool. Oh my gosh, so sorry. Like, you're in trouble,
right? I'm pretty sure that's why I was quiet for the rest of like my school life. I was like, I'm just chilling right now,
Your entrepreneurial spirit was crushed.
It was so quickly, such a quick turnaround too. But anyways, with this came the Cupcake Wars. I don't know if you ever watched that, but there was Cupcake Wars, the bakery challenges. And so me and my sister loved to just take whatever we could find in the kitchen and we'd like write it on notes or just challenge each other like to the weirdest things. I think at one point she used mustard for something and I can't even remember, but I just very, 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 very strongly remembered the fact that I made a chicken broth cupcake for my mom.
Gosh.
And because she was the judge, you have to have a judge in this. And so she was a trooper. She took a bite out of it. It had icing on it and everything. Like it was 90% chicken broth. It was so I don't think the taste was awful, but it was gummy. It was so gummy.
Oh my God.
I don't know even how to it was moist, gummy, and somehow like dry at the same time. So 10 out of 10 to her. But I definitely took in that personable, put that into my newsletter, and I was like, I don't know if I was really planning on telling anybody I made chicken broth cupcakes as a child. Yikes. But it was definitely fun to bring that to my newsletter. And I did have a couple unsubscribed. So I was like, oh, tear. Bye, guys. I'll miss you.
Oh my gosh. So rude.
But I practice what you preach. I do always say, put your personality in your blog post as well, because I do think as small business owners, we have that power with our personal brands. Like that's kind of one of our selling points to carry across. So I like to carry that across from my email. And I've definitely gotten better at doing it on Instagram. And fun fact,
I mean, hello, you were a ghost. You got this ghost. This is the only faceless marketing route tactics that I can actually get behind is taking professional brand photos in a ghost costume.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
So you should come check out my Instagram because we will be spooky and celebratory.
Ooh, spooky, but like with a Christmassy twist.
Yeah. Have you ever, the Christmas minis that a lot of photographers do? I've got one booked. And by this time, shot and delivered. And I was so excited because everybody was sad to see the ghost go. I was sad. I was like, oh, now I got to do.
I personally devastated.
I had someone say, can we start a petition for Michaela just to stay a ghost 24/7? I'm like, I could be convinced. I could definitely be convinced.
I've never loved anything more like that. It was like the whole thing about it, like the professional photo shoot element. I was like, oh my God, she really, really went full in on that. And I think it's really cool because like that is such a really cool way to show your personality in a different way, in the typical way that we're used to seeing it. Like I would say if I had to like pigeonhole myself, I would say that my personality and the way that I show up is kind of like the typical thing, like, oh, that crazy, get out, So I think you think, oh, show your personality, you think it has to be bubbly and bright and loud and high vibe and fun, really funny. Like you got to be this like really hilarious person in order to show personality, but that's just not the case. That's just the most in your face, obvious way of showing a personality. But it's really more about like owning who you are. And if spooky season in it of it itself is an entire personality. So like you you took that and ran with it, and I just like loved every ounce of it so much.
Honestly, I kind of recommend it to anybody, not necessarily doing spooky season, but trying to get a theme for a minute. So whether it's around a holiday or like a launch or something, like just kind of going all in, because it kind of gave me this mask, not necessarily like literally, I was wearing a sheet the whole time. So I showed up on stories pretty frequently, and I created reels and stuff in my face, but a lot of it was, pre my ghost photo shoot. I had photos that I could just pull from, and we really just we had fun during the whole thing. So I was like, these are very much me. And it kind of made it easier when we got into November, and I was like, my goal is to stay consistent on Instagram and do all these things that, I was like, okay, I kind of showed up with my face covered. But I've done it. I showed up for an entire month. So now I can kind of keep that energy going.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, so I was like, it made it easier to kind of make that transition and to doing it more around my personality and around me as a brand and all the good things. But that also kind of brings me back to how we were saying like high vibe and very much charismatic. I feel like is how anybody's going to picture a personal brand. Like the first thing they're going to be like, they're going to be high energy, you're going to be happy and showing up very like a lot. What is that like an accurate portrayal, or what do you do like during those low energy season? I know a lot of my listeners have a lot of low energy seasons or times where they just can't commit to being super active, but they want to stay active to some extent. That's why they're kind of interested in SEO and blogging. It's because we're like, okay, there are times when I can't show up. What do you kind of suggest, or how do you approach that?
It's tough when you see these other examples of like what it's supposed to be, but I have like my energy fluctuates throughout the month, throughout the year.
Same,
pretty like a lot. Luteal hits, and you're just like, I'm a steaming pile of garbage.
Yes,
like how do
every time
without
fail.
And it's a surprise every time.
Yes, it's like, oh my God, what happened today? And then you reflect and you're like, oh, well, that would be it. That's the thing.
Yeah. So if that is something that you have noticed in yourself, so I think like self-awareness is such a valuable human trait and marketing trait. So I think in this personal brand era, so like really being in tune with yourself and in tune with your body and like noticing these patterns, you can ideate and create on, when you're ovulating and like other or not necessarily if your body isn't, running that way and doesn't cycle like that. Just paying attention to what is triggering you, what is putting you in those lower moods, what is, what times of the year, month, seasons are better for reflecting and doing all this kind of stuff. But for me, like, because my mood fluctuates all the time, but this is just how I kind of am. I verbally process like every single thing that I go through. I usually talk to whoever is around me here, but honestly, like I reveal so much truth on Instagram that I like don't even talk to my family about. I think there's a level of openness that you can choose to have. The more open you are, the more open your community will be with you. And I think it causes a positive chain reaction, a ripple effect when you are open in yourself. And so I think that owning all of you, that accepting the fact that I'm not going to be high vibe or I'm not high vibe at all. Like, I'm an introverted, like quiet, chill, quirky, kind of a weirdo. Like I like to crochet. I like to knit. So it's like not, I'm not calling anyone out. I'm a knitter.
As my crochet yarn is in the background. You can't see because I'm hiding, but it's like back to the
there's
set.
there's so many examples too of like all of these people who are owning their different kinds of weirds and their different kinds of things. So I think just being open about the fact that when you are feeling low energy and maybe in those seasons or weeks of the month or whatever, you're more susceptible to the negative side effects that social media has. You're not
Yeah.
crazy. Like social media affects us really, really negatively. And when you're in a bad headspace, you're more susceptible to that. So it's about like practicing good digital habits and having that awareness of like when you are in that space and how you can move through it and how you can show up despite it. And a lot of that is being super open and super open about how you're actually feeling in that moment. And I find that when you no longer hide the pieces of yourself that you're trying so hard to hide, it becomes like there is a weight lifted. There is like shoulders go down from your earlobes. Your jaw becomes unclenched. Like there's a weight that is certainly lifted, and the floodgates get opened up when you are just open about that, really about that thing that you're hiding, and also being super regimented about your online digital boundaries when you are noticing that you're having a tough week or a tough month or a tough year.
Oh yeah. So I guess it kind of leans into, we're doing this right now and this episode's going live December, which means a lot of like, I would say parents and even just people in general are going to be taking time off. Will that like affect kind of how your Instagram strategy? Like, should you be worried at all? Do you just come back and like act like it didn't happen?
Taking a break at the end of the year, whether you take, I'm going completely offline the week over Christmas. I will be hiking in the Patagonias in
That's
Argentina. I will
like
be offline.
Bucket list.
Call me, beat me. You will not reach me. I am proudly going offline. If you're wondering if taking a break over the holidays when the world is quieter, when people are being closer to their loved ones and family, when you have time to reflect on the year and all the goodness that you have done, yes, it will affect you greatly, amazingly. You will come back in the new year so refreshed, guaranteed. So if you want to come back in the new year feeling really refreshed, I would take either, mark out when you're going offline, take that into account, maybe the first week of December, plan some cushion content that you could have in the first week of January, the second week of January, whenever you're deciding to come back. So you're not like, we're back into client work and oh God, I have nothing to post. And that scatter kind of comes to you. I would say pause consumption. Get like of everything that you could possibly do in that time. Don't consume. You don't need to hear about how great everyone's years were if yours wasn't that great. It's like you just need to reflect on yourself. You need to reflect on what you're wanting going forward in bringing into 2025, and focus just on family and resting and just appreciating that time offline, because we require it. If you're a creative person, you need that rest. And the way that you're able to come back and feel truly, truly refreshed is to, one, pause that consumption. That's the key. And number two, allow yourself this break and do it guilt-free. Something that I'm going to be doing, as I said, I am going to be offline that week of Christmas and probably the week after for the new year. I, in the past, have said, I'm offline. I will not post at all on my. I'm not going to be posting feed content. I will not be posting feed content. That I'm taking a break from probably for a solid 2 weeks, because I create so much content. Yeah. And I need a break from it. But usually in that time, when you're breaking like that, the ideas, like, you can't help them from coming. So write them down, write down your brain blasts, give yourself some context so you can remember it when you come back. If you feel inspired to create, and if you feel inspired to post what you're doing on stories or a little Merry Christmas or Happy Holiday, Happy Hanukkah message, do it. Don't hold yourself back from doing it. I think I have been guilty in the past of like, I'm offline, so I am offline. When And I've stopped myself from sharing something that I genuinely want to share. And that teeter totter of should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I pulls you out of the present moment. So if you're going to teeter totter, get off, make a choice, do it, go post it, put your phone back down, be with your family. Like,
Because
so
you're
I
going to
think
spend more time thinking about it than anything else. And then you're just like,
exactly,
whoops. I mean, that's the same.
exactly.
Wildly different. But when I'm making dinner at night, I'm like, what do we have? And then by the time I finally figured out, I could have just gone with the first thing and we would be eating instead of sitting there at like 6:30 wondering
And
what we'd
it's always the first thing, isn't it?
It's always, oh, I'll just go back to this. I knew I had all the stuff. It was going to be an easy make, and it's completely turning it around.
There's your next newsletter story.
Honestly, there we go. That's the one. And I feel like the end of the year and the beginning of even next year is such a time for comparisonitis because everybody's like looking at their final numbers, comparing it, because even it's been something I've struggled with because, I'm in year 5 of business. And so, well, I think I'm actually in year 6. I don't even, I have to think about how old I am, much less how long I've been in business.
2020 to like 2021 are like,
it's just gone. I can't calculate it. Maybe when we hit like the 2030s, I'll finally like start getting time together. But I feel like even then it's kind of like a hit or miss.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that it's hard to see because, you don't know people's journey. You don't know what they've been doing. And like one of the things I know that's held me back from growth is that I don't have the energy to launch. I'm managing 3 children. So I have tried launching and creating. I just don't have the time. So it's been a time for me to focus on like one-on-one stuff. But it still hurts when I see, I'm like, gosh, you're thinking about it and people are celebrating their wins and I love their wins. And I'm like, gosh, I want to be you. But it weighs on you, especially this time of the year. Like, what could I have done different? Not thinking about, I had children and out of the 5 years that I've had my business that I've been breastfeeding or pregnant, except for this past year. So I have to offer myself a little bit of forgiveness. Like, ma'am, there's a reason. Like, this is the first season.
There are some beautiful, beautiful reasons of why and this doesn't work for me. And if launching's not a part of, like, it's such a, if somebody is, there's Instagram will never stop Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Somebody is going to be celebrating their biggest milestone, their biggest launch every time you open the app, somebody is going to be there celebrating something. But it doesn't take away from anything that we do on our end. And I think, the end of the year is a great time for reflection. And I always get to the end of the year and I look through my camera roll, like, cause I travel full time. So I'm in the US right now, but when I look through my camera roll, I'm like, I remember being so anxious here. I remember being so sad here, but I look at the picture and I'm like, I had an amazing time. Like, I can't remember all the bad stuff. And it's just like, why do we do this to ourselves? It's a very human thing to do. And social media makes it incredibly easy to do.
Yes, it does. So actually, after my birthday, I am not active on socials. I will be posting on stories if I feel like it. And I'm keeping threads around because I really enjoy the space. And I feel like my feed on there is much more curated than my Instagram one is, for stuff that I'm actually like more interested in versus just business things. But Instagram itself, I'm not posting anything. I'm going to remove like the little app icon from my phone face. So I'm not like thinking about it. I recently took off my work email.
Nice.
I took off Honeybook because I had Honeybook on there. And then I think I had like Asana and Slack. And I think Slack is still on there, but it's because I'm in a challenge and it has a Slack channel, but I'm not logged into anything work-wise. I'm like, guilty of checking stuff in the morning and then not being able to do anything about it until like when I can actually sit down and work, which is another 3 or 4 hours after I get kids to school and get settled and get back. So definitely taking a month off, which is kind of nerve-wracking, but I think I need it. We need it.
Yeah, it's so nerve-wracking to do, but gosh, it feels good to do it. I would just have a little bit of that. And anyone who is planning on taking off at any amount of time over the holidays, of some pre-batched content or at least some ideas for that week that you're back so that week isn't a frazzle.
Oh yeah, that's gonna get me as the week back when everybody's going back to school. But to do that, I would like to just recommend real quick. I downloaded a Airtable base or I bought from Coley James, and it has like a brain dump section.
Mm-hmm.
And it has she made it to where you can fill out a form. So you have the link to the form. You don't even have to be in your Airtable. So you have the link to the form. So whenever you have an idea, you can like type out the brain dump, put what platform it's on, and it just goes to your Airtable base. And it's been so, so helpful. Because then like when I have the idea, I can put it in there. And then when I'm like actually thinking about creating content, I'm going through my content ideas like, okay, this is pretty good. This one's pretty nice.
That's cool.
It's only like $9.
Has a link like that. I wonder if Notion like can link up like that.
I feel like, I don't know if it can link up right now, but I feel like it'll get there because didn't they just release forms?
Yeah, they did.
So I'm sure you could do it like that. It's link up your Notion to that because I do love Notion for that. I've been such a debate on where to keep my content between Notion and Airtable because I have Airtable for my client's content calendar, but I keep all my projects in Notion. So it's been this back and forth, but I absolutely love it for $9. It's done so much and keeps all of my spooky content that I'm going to repurpose into regular people content, de-spookify a little bit. But I feel like this conversation has been awesome. Definitely a little longer than I thought it was, but I enjoy every bit of it. And, you know, as we get into this new vibe of the blogging and SEO show, everything SEO, I kept everything kind of short and sweet, but I changed the title not too long ago because I felt like I was talking a lot and it was more blogging and stuff like that. So it's like, I'll just bring in some blogging stuff. And we'll be a little less strict about what I do for it. But first of all, I like to leave the audience and listeners with like an actionable tip, something they can do today. What would you recommend?
I think the first thing is like a little bit of a mindset shift, which is there is a lot of cringe to push through in order to show up as your full self. It is incredibly vulnerable to do, is incredibly brave to show up as yourself. So I think there's so many people who stay stuck for such a long time and they see other people being themselves unapologetically. It's all anybody wants. But you're either it's so much harder to stay stuck avoiding the cringe than it is to just suck it up and be cringy. It's so much harder to avoid and just keep yourself kind of down here. Whereas like doing that cringy thing, oftentimes, like even if it is but putting a ghost costume on and taking a photo shoot in front of like that is cringy for some people. Like not the definition of cringe. I think cringe is like kind of has a certain negative connotation to it. But I think just like what are you scared of doing? And I think pushing past that, showing up, being brave, posting it anyway, saying what you really think, showing your full ass personality online, all super brave things, pushing past that fear, doing it despite the fear that everybody has, no matter if they're like the most themselves person, like it's not easy, but it gets easier. Then I think doing it vulnerably and showing up despite the fear, but also owning the fear and saying it out loud, admitting to the fear. I posted this and I was really freaked out. Saying that and doing so bravely and vulnerably at the same time, I think like be both. Be cringy, be brave, be vulnerable. Admit that you're scared. And like you get that instantaneous almost relief because when you are, I think so many people recognize that authenticity is not only magnetic to the right people, but it's contagious to those watching. And I think it just has nothing but positive. There's nothing but something positive that can come from being yourself and just owning who you are, owning your POV and owning all of it. And I think admitting to the fear and pushing past the fear and admitting to it is like the recipe for connection and trust and all of that goodness. That's what it comes from. So I think, yeah, just kind of accepting that if this is something that you want, if growing your personal brand and being the face and all the things is something that you want, like it's just something that you're going to have to accept.
Yeah.
And know that once you're on the other side of it, it's easier. It will get easier eventually. And social media will get more sustainable because you are like, sustainability is not just about a posting cadence. It's about showing up as you are, as a personal brand, as a vibe that you can actually maintain for a long time because it's yours. So I think just knowing all that is kind of what helps all of this. It helps you have a good time and be there for a long time.
Oh, yeah. So if anybody listening wants to connect with you or work with you, how can they do that?
Groovy Social on Instagram. Slide into my DMs. I basically live there. So you can slide into my DMs, say the most outrageous thing that comes to you or just whatever. Have any questions ever at all. I am an open book. So please slither on in there. And I will be, by this point when this episode goes live, I will have almost finished working with a few beta testers for my new service, which is the you-centric Instagram strategy that is basically like the essence of you, your special sauce, your personality, your values, your POV, your approach, your je ne sais quoi. It's not only going to help position you as like the authentic leader of your brand, but we also have built in to that some hands-on feedback and support from me. So you're not just getting a strategy deck that you have no clue what to do with. We are using that strategy to ideate content together, using your branded content themes and dripping in all that personal experience so that your content feels really connected and meaningful and authentic and true and fulfilling. And you're excited about the content. Your people are excited about the content. I think past life, it was all about our audience, all about them, but your experience matters in the process. So we are creating content that lights you up, lights them up. We're doing it together. We're ideating, we're putting together a content calendar, and then you get hands-on support through the creation process from idea to post with me in Voxer, like guiding you through answering any questions, helping you get unstuck at any point during the creation process, and like learning how to use your strategy and create content in a way that feels really good and sustainable and fun. So that is the goal. That is the recipe, I believe. For success. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm really about to start with the beta testers now at the time of recording. And by the time this comes out, I'll be wrapping up with those beta testers and we'll officially launch in the new year. So get on that wait list.
And of course, everything will be linked below as always. I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for talking with me. It's been really such a joy. I feel like we need like a coffee chat soon. That would be amazing.
Oh my gosh. I would love that. I've been guzzling my coffee though, but I would, yeah, that would be great. I would love that.
Perfect. But that is all for today. As always, listen in to next week's episode. We will not have an episode for Christmas week. We will be taking off. I don't think you should be here listening to it anyways. Do something else. Go outside, smell some grass. Or is it touch grass?
Touch. It's touch. But take a sniff if you want to.
Get a good whip. I don't know if it'll smell like anything in the winter, but get a good whip.
Breathe in that crispy December air and enjoy that time offline. You deserve it.
Absolutely. I don't know what I said to my husband the other day, but I made some kind of comparison and he's like, no, you're so wrong in that. Or when we drove by a church one time and I was like, wow, that's such a nice house. And of course, my father-in-law was in the back seat. So he goes, That's a church. Well, I guess the home of God. I don't. It's a good house. But there's churches on every corner down here, so it was definitely just like a moment of, oh goodness. But anyways, see you. Y'all can hear me soon. Until next time. As always, I hope you were able to learn at least one new thing today and how you can apply it to your own business or blog. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Blogging and SEO Show. Don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. I promise it's a goodie. And check the show notes for everything we talked about today. And come connect with me on Instagram at comamama.co. If you have any questions or thoughts you want to share, DM me. Let's chat. Until next time, talk soon.